Imagine walking across a golden bridge more than 1,400 meters above sea level, surrounded by clouds and mountains, while two enormous stone-colored hands appear to rise from the earth and hold the bridge in the sky. It sounds like something from a fantasy movie, but this extraordinary place is real. Hidden in the mountains of central Vietnam, near the city of Da Nang, stands the Golden Bridge, one of the most visually unusual bridges ever constructed. Open to visitors in 2018, the bridge quickly became famous around the world because of one incredible feature: two gigantic weathered-looking hands that appear to lift the walkway above the mountains. But here's the part most people don't realize. Those giant hands are not actually holding the bridge like real hands. The appearance is an artistic illusion created through carefully engineered steel structures, concrete, fiberglass, and stone-like finishes. Beneath the spectacular design is a sophisticated system that had to survive mountain winds, heavy rain, changing temperatures, and thousands of visitors. So how did engineers and architects turn this unbelievable idea into a real structure? How did they build a bridge high in the Vietnamese mountains? And how did they make giant hands look as if they had been there for centuries? In this documentary, we're going inside the incredible engineering story behind Vietnam's Golden Bridge. And before we begin, make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications, because we bring you fascinating stories about the world's most incredible engineering projects, megastructures, and architectural wonders. Now, let's go back to the beginning. A bridge above the clouds. The Golden Bridge is located in the Ba Na Hills Mountain Resort, west of Da Nang, Vietnam. The location itself is extraordinary. Ba Na Hills rises high above the surrounding landscape, with dense forests, steep mountain slopes, and rapidly changing weather. One moment, visitors can have a clear view across the mountains.
It feels as if we are walking on clouds, like our steps are traveling on clouds now. It is truly very fun and enjoyable.
Minutes later, clouds and fog can completely surround the bridge. This unusual environment is exactly what made the project so special. The developers wanted to create more than a simple walkway. They wanted a landmark, something that would make visitors feel as if they were walking through the clouds. The solution was a curved pedestrian bridge stretching approximately 150 meters across the mountainside. Instead of hiding the structure among the landscape, the designers made it part of the landscape's story. And that's where the giant hands came in. The concept was developed by Vietnam-based TA Landscape Architecture, with the bridge becoming the centerpiece of the surrounding mountain attraction. The designers imagined the hands of a giant emerging from the earth, gently lifting a ribbon of gold toward the sky. It was an ambitious, artistic idea, but turning that image into a real structure was much harder, designing something that looked ancient. One of the most fascinating parts of the Golden Bridge is its appearance. The giant hands don't look like shiny modern concrete. They look old. They appear cracked, weathered, and covered with the marks of time. This was completely intentional. The designers wanted the hands to look as if nature itself had created them. But there was a problem. The actual structure had to be modern. It needed to support the bridge and withstand the mountain environment. So engineers had to create a modern internal framework and then cover it with materials that could produce the appearance of ancient stone. The hands were built around steel structural elements and formed with concrete and other finishing materials. Their outer surfaces were carefully shaped and textured to resemble enormous weathered rock. This required more than simply pouring concrete into a mold. Workers had to create the curves, fingers, joints, cracks, and irregular surfaces that make the hands look natural. Every detail mattered. If the surface looked too smooth, the hands would appear artificial. If the fingers were too symmetrical, they would lose their natural appearance. And if the proportions were wrong, the entire illusion would collapse. The result had to look enormous, powerful, and ancient. Yet underneath that appearance was modern construction technology. The real challenge was the mountain building. A bridge on flat ground is already complicated. Building one on a mountain is a completely different problem. At Ba Na Hills, engineers had to work with steep terrain rather than a convenient construction site. The bridge needed strong foundations. Those foundations had to transfer loads safely into the mountain. And because the bridge sits high above the surrounding landscape, wind became an important consideration. A pedestrian bridge may not carry the weight of cars and trucks, but it still has to deal with thousands of people moving across it. Add strong winds, rain, humidity, and temperature changes, and the engineering challenge becomes much more complicated. The bridge itself was designed as a curved walkway. Its golden-colored surface gives it the appearance of a giant ribbon floating above the forest. But the beautiful surface hides a much more practical structure. Steel is used to provide the primary structural strength, while the visible finishes create the distinctive appearance that visitors see. This separation between appearance and structure is one of the secrets behind the bridge's unusual design. The architects could make the hands look like giant stone sculptures, while engineers focused on the actual structural requirements underneath. In other words, the bridge didn't need to literally rest on the fingers of the hands. It only needed to look as though it did. And that distinction was extremely important: how the giant hands actually work. When you first see photographs of the Golden Bridge, it appears obvious. Two enormous hands rise from the mountain. The fingers reach around the underside of the bridge, and the bridge seems to be resting directly in their palms. But walk underneath the structure and the illusion becomes clearer. The hands are primarily architectural and visual elements. The actual bridge is supported by its own structural system and foundations. This is a brilliant example of how modern engineering can create the appearance of something physically impossible. The engineers didn't need to make a giant hand capable of literally carrying an entire bridge. Instead, they created a structure that could safely perform the necessary engineering functions while using the hands as a dramatic visual feature. This approach made the project both practical and extraordinary. The result is a structure where architecture and engineering almost disappear into one another. Visitors see a fantasy. Engineers see load paths, foundations, steel, concrete, joints, and structural stability. And that difference is what makes the Golden Bridge so fascinating. Building at more than 1,400 meters altitude created another major challenge. The bridge sits roughly 1,400 meters above sea level. At that height, weather conditions can change quickly. Fog can roll across the mountain, rain can arrive suddenly, strong winds can make outdoor work difficult, and visibility can disappear almost instantly. For construction crews, this meant that work schedules had to adapt to the mountain. Materials couldn't simply arrive at a convenient city construction site. They had to be transported into a mountainous environment. Workers needed access to the construction area. Equipment had to be positioned carefully, and every major construction activity had to account for the surrounding terrain. The mountain itself became part of the engineering problem, but eventually, the pieces began coming together. Steel structures formed the framework, concrete created the large sculptural forms, workers shaped the surfaces, and the bridge began to emerge from the clouds. Then came one of the most visually important stages, the finishing, creating the golden appearance. The bridge is famous for its golden color, but it isn't made from solid gold, of course. The golden appearance comes from the bridge's surface finishing. The walkway was designed to create a warm, striking contrast against the green mountains and gray clouds. From a distance, it looks almost like a golden ribbon floating through the sky. This was a smart architectural choice. The color makes the bridge highly visible from different viewpoints, while also creating a strong contrast with the natural landscape. Photography played an unexpected role in its success. The curved walkway, enormous hands, clouds, mountains, and golden surface combined to create an image that looks almost impossible. And that image spread rapidly across the internet. Within a short time, photographs of the Golden Bridge were appearing around the world. People who had never heard of Bana Hills suddenly wanted to know where the mysterious bridge was located. Why make it look so old? There's another fascinating detail hidden in the design. The hands were deliberately made to appear aged. Why? Because the designers wanted the bridge to feel as if it had emerged from mythology. Instead of looking like something recently constructed, the hands appear to belong to the mountain itself. The cracks and weathered textures reinforce the illusion. It creates the impression that some enormous ancient being has been buried beneath the mountain for centuries and has suddenly reached upward to lift the bridge. But creating that effect required careful craftsmanship. The surface had to be irregular without becoming structurally weak. The color had to resemble stone, the cracks had to look natural, and the entire sculpture had to remain visually convincing from different angles. This is where architecture becomes almost like movie production. The engineers built the real structure, the artists created the illusion, and together, they produced something that looks impossible. The human side of the project. Large engineering projects are often presented through machines and blueprints, but behind every structure are people, workers who spend long hours carrying materials, engineers checking measurements, architects changing designs, construction crews working through difficult weather, technicians inspecting every connection, and specialists responsible for making the final structure look exactly as the designers imagined. At Bana Hills form the background, and the giant hands appear to rise directly from the earth. When the world finally saw it, the Golden Bridge opened to the public in 2018. Almost immediately, photographs of the structure attracted enormous international attention. The bridge became a social media sensation. Travelers began sharing photographs from above the clouds. Tourists posed between the giant hands. Photographers captured the bridge disappearing into fog. And suddenly, a relatively new structure became one of Vietnam's most recognizable modern landmarks. But the bridge's popularity wasn't simply because it was beautiful. It was because it created a feeling. Standing on the walkway, visitors don't just see a bridge, they feel suspended above the mountains. The clouds can make the landscape below disappear. The golden walkway curves through the air, and the giant hands create the strange sensation that something enormous is physically supporting the structure. It's an experience designed around emotion as much as engineering, more than a tourist attraction. The Golden Bridge demonstrates something important about modern architecture. A bridge doesn't have to be only about transportation. It can also tell a story. Traditional bridges connect 2 points. The Golden Bridge connects people to an experience. It turns a simple journey through the mountains into a visual adventure, and that is why its design became so influential. It showed that engineering and imagination don't have to compete with each other. Engineering provides the strength, architecture provides the form, art provides the emotion. And when all three work together, the result can become something much bigger than its original purpose. The engineering behind the illusion. Perhaps the most impressive part of the Golden Bridge isn't what you see, it's what you don't see. You don't see the steel framework hidden beneath the artistic surfaces. You don't see the calculations that determine how loads move through the structure. You don't see the foundations anchored into the mountain. You don't see the planning required to construct a major attraction in a difficult environment. You simply see 2 giant hands, and that's the genius of the project. The best engineering often disappears. When everything works correctly, visitors don't think about structural calculations. They simply enjoy the experience. The Golden Bridge makes that principle especially powerful because the entire structure is built around an illusion. It looks like nature created the hands. It looks like the hands are physically carrying the bridge. But underneath the illusion is modern engineering, a bridge that changed how we see architecture. Since opening, the Golden Bridge has become one of Vietnam's most photographed landmarks. Its design has appeared in travel magazines, documentaries, television programs, and countless online videos. But its real legacy may be something deeper. It proves that an infrastructure project can become art. It shows that a bridge can be functional while also becoming a symbol. And it demonstrates how architecture can create an emotional reaction before a visitor even takes the first step. The Golden Bridge doesn't simply cross a gap, it creates a story. You arrive in the mountains, you walk into the clouds, then, suddenly, 2 enormous hands appear beneath you. For a few seconds, reality feels different, and that is exactly what its designers wanted. Final thoughts. Today, the Golden Bridge stands high above Vietnam's mountains as a remarkable combination of engineering, architecture, craftsmanship, and imagination. It may look like a mysterious ancient structure discovered inside the mountains, but behind the illusion is a modern engineering achievement. Steel provides strength, concrete creates form, carefully designed finishes create the appearance of ancient stone, and the mountain provides the dramatic setting. The giant hands may not literally hold the bridge in the way they appear to in photographs, but they hold something else. They hold the imagination of everyone who sees them, and perhaps that's the greatest achievement of all. Because engineering isn't always about building the biggest or strongest structure. Sometimes, it's about building something that makes people stop, look, and ask one simple question. How did they build that? The Golden Bridge has answered that question with an extraordinary combination of science and imagination. A bridge in the clouds, a mountain transformed into a stage, and 2 enormous hands that seem to reach out from the earth itself. It is proof that when engineers and designers are willing to think beyond the ordinary, even a simple bridge can become a global icon. If you enjoyed this journey inside Vietnam's incredible Golden Bridge, subscribe to our channel, turn on notifications, and stay with us for more fascinating stories about the world's most unbelievable engineering projects, hidden construction secrets, and architectural wonders. Because the next engineering marvel may be even more impossible than this one.